identifying, getting in front of, and working with different target audiences in the home service industry is probably one of the key factors of, I would say, having a successful business in the home service industry.
Oh,
You could agree.
100%. Yeah.
100%.
If you can't get in front of your customer, then no matter how good you are, you're not going to make any money.
Exactly. So in home services, most companies identify these different target audiences as, you've got your low income, middle income, and high income.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, you're not going to be targeting low income. There's people out there that do it. But if you're listening to this podcast and you're trying to grow your business, you're probably focusing on middle to high income, right?
Yep.
So in getting in front of, middle and high income customers is totally different, right? So a middle income customer, you're going to go about a certain way, and high income, you're going to go about a certain way. What exactly is those differences?
Yeah, so it's helpful to, whenever thinking about middle to high income people, to think about what we call a target persona.
Mm-hmm.
So like, what are the common factors between people who will buy my services? So middle income people, you can probably guess that they are in a standard job. They're an engineer, they're a rancher, they work at a plant, or they're in oil and gas or whatever. They go to work 9 to 5, they come home afterwards, they spend the weekends with their family, and they go on vacation once or twice a year.
Yep.
Upper middle or upper income, you can probably anticipate they're lawyers, doctors, very busy people who might not always be accessible on the weekends or, when other people would. And so that's the most important thing, thinking about those common traits. So your middle income people, they're going to be more accessible, both time wise as well as just being able to approach them.
Yeah,
they are typically, if you're in home services, like knocking and hanging door hangers and stuff like that is a very good marketing tactic, which we'll talk about a little bit more in another podcast.
Oh, for sure.
But they are in clusters of areas, right?
Yeah.
There's 100 homes on one street that you can just go down and you can put door hangers on each one and knock at each one.
Yeah, I think I average probably 50 knocks within a matter of less than 2 hours. I can go in and actually knock at 50 different doors, and we'll get into close rates and all that another time. But whereas if I go into a high income neighborhood and it's gated and there's bigger plots of lands and everything, it's going to be I'm going to get maybe 20 or 30 in within that 2 hours, because so you get less exposure, but obviously higher income typically comes higher price jobs, things like that.
Yeah,
but,
exactly. Also with middle income versus higher income, I would say another big factor between those two target personas is going to be what they care about.
Yeah.
So you think about a middle income person, if you're charging $5,000 for a job, that charge is going to be a much greater percentage of their annual take-home income than it is an upper income person.
Mm-hmm.
If they're making $500,000 and you're charging them $5,000, okay, you're like, yeah, I have that, I can go ahead and pay it.
Yeah.
Versus somebody who's making $50,000, that's 10% of their annual income. And so
you got to be a lot more competitive with your pricing, essentially.
Yeah.
If you're worrying about the middle income, focusing on them.
Yeah. So whenever targeting middle income, you really have to take that into account. Like, how do I make this as accessible as possible to these people? And price for them is going to be a very big factor. So what can I do between payment plans or maybe introductory offers or something like that versus a higher income person? Then, hey, I don't need to focus on that as much when I'm trying to get in front of that type of customer.
Right. Yeah. And then the thing that I've noticed talking about pricing, kind of getting into the job side of things, is like working for, and maybe it's not like this for every single person. Every person has their own personality and stuff like that. But I've noticed when working for the higher income, specifically within the handyman services, they typically are a lot less hands off, right? So it's kind of like, hey, I need you to come do this. And then they're gone doing whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
And they typically pay right away. They typically don't really care about the price as long as you're treating them right. Now, they're smart. They're not dumb.
They didn't get there without being smart. Yeah.
They're going to know if you're totally screwing them over, right? But for the most part, if they know that you're presenting yourself in a way that is way more professional than everyone else, a higher income person is probably going to prefer that. Like
Yeah.
we had a client just a few weeks ago. I don't know if you remember, but he was like, I really don't care about the price. You're the best looking company. Like
Yeah.
you look national. You look
Mm-hmm.
like you're going to get the job done. And, we're at dinner last night and then boom, he pays without even looking at the job. Like didn't
Yep.
even look that the job was done. He just had that trust because of how we've built the Smart Fix, right?
Yeah.
And whereas middle income, you get a lot more middle income jobs because you can get more knocks in, you can get more targeting to them, right? But it's a little bit more difficult to deal with sometimes because they might be what you would call a helicopter customer where they're standing over you, making sure they're just a lot more aware of their money, right?
Yeah.
And they're more aware of it, and so they're going to be more safe with it. They want to make sure the job's getting done 100% correctly, no matter how you present yourself to the middle income, especially the lower income. They're just going to be a little bit more cautious. They're not going to pay right off the bat. They're not going to pay the second you're done. Like you just have to treat them, what I would say, just a little bit more carefully. And then it's the same. Like kind of jumping back to the high income, I treat them even more carefully because they just have 100% trust in me, right? But I don't have to actually like handle the customer in a different way because they're typically just not even part of the equation. I just have to make sure the job's handled 100% perfectly, right?
Yeah. Thinking about high income, it makes sense. If somebody doesn't have a lot of time, they're very busy with their job, their company, whatever.
Yeah.
They're going to put a premium on being able to hire somebody that they can just trust.
Yeah.
And so for them, professionalism, showing that you can do the job right and it's going to be done right the first time, they don't have to micromanage you, is going to go a long way in helping you win bids for those higher income earners.
Yeah.
Versus middle income earners, you're going to get more bids if you can be more competitive in your pricing and turnaround times.
Yep. There was a cool thing. I'll do a little example real quick on TikTok. The guy, I thought it was awesome. The guy had a backpack. I'll just use this box. And he's like, hey, so what would you say if I told you that I'll sell you this box for $1,000? What would you say if I told you that? I'll say
It's a box.
It's a box.
Why?
His mentality was rich people think what's inside the box. If it's for $1,000, there's got to be something good inside the box. And to me, that's how a rich person thinks compared to a middle income or more poor person, right? Is like it's just a box, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Whereas, and it's just a box because we just pulled this out of the things, right? But that was his perception, is like a higher income, wealthier people are going to value the services, the products more, and they're going to care less about the price because it's what are you going to get from it.
Yeah. So you run the Smart Fix. You work with both different types of clients, middle and upper income earners. How do you position your, not just the quotes when you're bidding the job and saying, here's how much it'll be.
Right.
How do you manage the entire process of the phone call through going, looking at the project, bidding it, doing the project between middle and high income earners?
Yeah. So the cool thing is the software we have, we use Jobber, right? And so the first thing I do is I get their information, and that's across the board, everything. They send in their name, phone number, address.
Yeah.
And with that info, I can look at their address. I can immediately see they're in this neighborhood. And I know based off this area, is it middle income or high income, right?
Yeah.
They're in the country club, they're high income. If they're in, I forgot the name of it, but if they're in one of those other neighborhoods, they're probably middle income.
Yeah.
And if they're over here, maybe I just don't worry about the client, right? So from the beginning of it, if I can see, let's start with middle income. If I can see that they're in a middle income housing development or whatever, I'm going to immediately treat that a little bit differently. I'm going to be, like I said, more cautious with it.
Yep.
I'm going to make sure that I go in person to that appointment because they care. They want to build a connection with me. They want to see me. They want to do all of that. I'm going to make sure to do that. Whereas a high income person, I've noticed, is actually very, very impressed with the fact that I can immediately send them a quote right then and there based off of what we've done in the past. And because they're, I would say, a little bit more impressed with how our website looks and how our reviews are and everything like that. They have a little bit more trust.
Yeah.
So I can just send them that, and the high income person appreciates that because I'm saving them time,
Yeah.
right? Whereas a middle income person wants me to come to their home and talk to them and build that trust and get to know me before I can say it's this amount of money.
Yeah.
A high income person loves the fact that I within 2 hours I sent them a price.
Yep.
And they're like, oh, perfect, great, let's do it. That's step one. So high income, I've realized I can be a lot more straightforward. Here's the price. Let's go for that. Middle income, I kind of nurtured a little bit more, right? Like go talk to them, tell them about what everything's going on, explain the price to them. High income, I can just kind of shoot it over as long as they're impressed with the Jobber's changed everything, right? They can see that everything's automated. They immediately think that they're going to be taken care of just because of that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of step one. I immediately handle it a little bit different there. The second part is actually on the job, right? So handling the on-site part. Middle income is typically they're going to want me to be there in the evenings or the weekends because they want to be there to watch me do the work.
Yeah.
Perfectly fine. I just have to know that. Whereas higher income, I've noticed that 90% of the time they're just like, hey, the key's under the mat. Come in, get it knocked out. Like they typically don't really care a whole lot more. And as long as a high income person, I make sure that I spend an additional hour every single day cleaning up after myself.
Yeah.
But I bid that into my quote. They're gonna pay for a premium price. I'm gonna clean up every day. I'm not gonna leave my tools there. I'm going to treat it like a high income job, right? Middle income, I'm going to gonna still have that same value and pride in my work and everything, but maybe I don't sweep and mop every day.
Yeah.
Right? High income, I literally sweep and mop every day after a job. Middle income, I'm just gonna, go in, get what I need to get done, come out, come back the next day,
Yeah.
and they're happy with that. So,
And that's kind of you optimizing for the price.
exactly,
Like,
yeah,
at the end of the day, if we are doing work and we're losing money, then it's not worth it. We shouldn't
Exactly.
do that job. And so you are pulling out things that it's not top priority for them. So middle income, their focus most of the time is more on the price.
more on the price.
How can I afford
is it
this?
affordable? Yeah,
And so you pull out certain elements from the job that help
Yep.
you reduce your time commitment and therefore offer a more competitive price versus higher income. They care more about not having to micromanage you
Yep.
when having a clean home to
Yep.
come home to. And so
Yep.
you just bid that to a job and put a premium on that price.
Yep. And people don't like so many contractors, subcontractors nowadays, they don't do that. They treat every client the same.
Yeah.
And, the whole motto of treat every client the same in general, that motto, I don't agree with at all. Because if somebody wants to pay a lower price, they're going to get a lower package or a lower,
Yeah.
a little bit lower. Not necessarily in the end result. It's just how you're handling it. Maybe
Yeah.
you're not having 2 or 3 guys on it, knocking it out and making sure it's perfect and pretty.
Yeah.
Like you would a very high end. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've always thought about it like this. If I have two people, one's paying me $1,000, another one's $500, is it ethical to do the exact same
No, it's
thing
not.
for both people? No, you're ripping off the person who paid you twice as much.
Exactly.
So have treat them differently.
Yeah.
Do for the $500 person what they paid for, and the $1,000 person do
Yeah.
a little bit more to make up for that double payment.
Like I was talking about the cleaning up afterwards. I mean, just that little thing. It's an hour, right? Well, if our billable rate is $150 an hour, I can save them $150 every day that I'm there.
Yeah.
And if it's a 5-day project, then that's saving them. I'm not good at math. What's 150?
$750.
$750.
$750.
This is why
Which
we
is
have
a lot for them.
This is why
Yeah.
we have softwares in place. Yeah, so it saves them $750. So if I give that $750 off essentially to that middle income person, then they're going to be a lot happier. The higher income person, they have a very nice home. They want it to be very well taken care of. I'm going to charge them $750 for that week to clean up every single day.
Yep.
But I know in my schedule, I have an hour of cleanup
Yeah.
every day. And people don't do that. It doesn't mean I do a worse job or their, sheetrock's going to look like crap. It's just a little bit of a differentiating factor there. And if you do that, you're going to save time, maximize profit, and you're going to grow within your industry because you're treating each target audience the way that it should be treated. And
The way that they want to be
they
treated.
want to be treated that
Yeah.
way. And I feel like it's kind of the same in probably all industries, right? Like if you're paying for a higher premium product, same thing. You know, if you pay for an iPhone 15 Pro Max, you're going to get different features
Yeah.
than you are in an iPhone 15. And so if you're doing that in products, why are we not doing that in services? Most people, I don't feel like, do that in services, and that's why their businesses fail. They try to do the same across the board all the time for the people that pay $100 and the people that pay $1,000.
Yep.
Change those tactics, give them certain things off so you can get to their price point.
Yep.